Hi, everyone. My name is Gerardo. I'm going to be your host for the HR Power podcast. Hi, everyone from this community, everyone who will see us in LinkedIn. Um, I'm glad to start this new series of podcasts that we're going to try to do in a different language in English. So you also can be able to try to practice your another language. And with me, is someone very important from the talent development field, someone who has grow in Latin America and has the opportunity to work now in different cultures. Right now, is the head of talent and global programs for a company called Amway, who has a global footprint on the field of well-being, on products of well-being. And she's gonna talk to us a little bit about her journey in her career and what she sees today on the development field and the development space, and how the future hold us on the HR space, as well as being a partner as well in the HR community. So, Melissa, welcome to the podcast. Nice to
Oh,
meet you.
thank you. Yeah, thank you, Hera. Nice to meet you too. And I'm glad to be here. And, like just talking about what really we are passionate about, like these people and how talent development or even HR can help on drive business growth and whatever company you are, right? Like that's whatever industry, company, and type of organization. So
Yeah.
thank you so much for having me here.
And as you said, this is going to be a learning experience. Hope this information will help you, and keep us in mind. Click that like, and if you're not subscribed to our community, I encourage you to do it. You will find surprises and incredible things like this conversation we're going to start. So, Melissa, can you tell me a little bit about your professional history, about your journey on how you got to the position that you are right now, some of those challenges that you find during your career?
Oh my God, that's a lot of, I think everyone can face different challenges for a different point of view. So obviously, I started my career in HR 17 years ago, 18, I think, when I graduated from the University of Monterrey. I got my bachelor in human resources. And it's pretty fun, like how I found my path, right? Why did I choose HR? It's because I have like a role model, like a family member that works in HR in training and development. And I always saw her like, oh my God, that's really interesting what she's talking about. So then I realized the university has this degree. And before I joined my degree, my bachelor, I would just even start working on HR just for me to confirm like that's really what really makes me happy, that I can enjoy. Obviously, I was like a type of intern, right? Like nothing like I'm just recruiting people for gas stations. But it was super interesting, right? Starting from the talent acquisition piece. Then I joined, I think, one of my biggest schools in HR processes and leadership development, that is General Electric. I think that's a big company. And it was a big school for some of the HR professionals around in other companies now. So I feel like I learned a lot. I work in the manufacturing side, and there is where the action happened, right? Like where the money came from. Like that's where really the challenges, like everyday challenges you face, right? Because you never know what's happening in a day, right? Like that's something that I really like, and I always try to avoid like the routinary pieces or roles, because that's something that I really not interested on,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Sometimes you
It's
got into some like routine and you're like, oh my gosh, okay, I need to make a change, right? Like I don't like it. I don't feel comfortable. So
it's very difficult to plan when you're in those spaces, right? To be in
yeah.
HR, you think you have an agenda for the week, but it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. So when you were in General Electric, you started what was the position? What was the HR field that you were?
I started as HR generalist, not in the employee relations or labor piece, but more into the training and development. So that's how I started into this, like talent development piece from an hourly perspective. Obviously, we have some salaries, and as G had or used to have like leadership academies and programs and even talent processes, right? Talent management processes So I was the one who supports and execute all the performance management pieces, calibrations. So I always been in this side, even though it was within manufacturing, right? But there is some like part of the soft skills. So I was not in charge of the, like the food service, like the transportation, but I pretty work closely with my partner. Like we are part of a team. But obviously I work in the recruiting piece, the staffing piece, and there we have challenges to like close lines and merger with our company. So that's where my experience come from, where you need to just have some planning from a human capital planning. And even though it was just experience like let it go people, right? I think that was the most challenged part for every HR professional, right? When you need to say goodbye to someone. There was some days that I just have like lines of people, like people waiting for get a notification outside my office when I moved into an HR lead role. I remember it was like 300 people that we are just letting
Needed to
go.
let go.
Yeah, and the energy and like your mental health, like, and even we didn't talk about mental health in those years. It was like 20, I don't know, like 27, I think. So it was really hard because you just go to your home and you're like, oh my gosh, you feel exhausted, you feel sad, and sometimes you feel bad because there was not a reason, right? Like for just let them go. It was just like a business decision. And well, there is the other part, right? Like when you have like a person, like an employee from the side, like invite you to the plant to see a process. So I think I have a lot of learnings from that phase of my life or stage of my life. And I think that was the only experience. It was like 3.5 years that I worked for GE. But it was enough for me to set the basics for HR and the passion for people and for like the critical piece of talent management, and help people, right, develop their potential. So
and then you jump into another experience, right? Another
yeah.
adventure.
Yes, that's right. So I have like in between GE and Amway, I work for a chemical gases company based in Monterey too. And I was just pretty like a staffing leader, like focusing on recruiting drivers and like all this. And there was like a leadership role, like a formal leadership role, where I have like 9 or 7 people under my team that needs to drive the staffing agenda, right? Like getting the people in the job, the onboarding process, and different things. But it was just a short period of time. And then someone like a headhunter called me like, hey, we have an opportunity at Amway. And in those days, I was just like, sorry, can you just repeat the name of the company? Because it was not in my top of mind, right? Like it was, so then I just started learning about before going to the interview, like getting some research. Then the HR director, my former leader, interviewed me there, and then I just joined as organizational development. We implemented like the employee opinion survey, performance management system, HR technology. We implemented success factors in that time, like 4 modules at the same time. So it was when Amway starts with their HR or digital transformation, right? From the people side. So it was a lot of learnings. Like that's where I started working with global colleagues, right? Like getting meetings at every time to be 5 a.m. in the morning, 9 p.m. in the night. So yeah, it was super fun. And I still have those calls that I really enjoy. And well, then that was my first role. And then I moved to an HR business partner role, supporting the Latin America functional heads, so all the marketing, sales, finance. So that was really when I was really close to the business, right? Like learning from them, partnering with them, and helping them deliver the people strategy within their functions. Well, and then I think sometimes I just get lost into all the roles that I play here at Amway, but it's really, then I moved to the employee engagement manager for Latin America. And I really basically love that role because the world, even the market, didn't not to start even talking about employee experience, employee engagement. That was in 2013 or 14. So it was for me like just like a piece of like a blank paper, like for me to create. Like,
Right.
okay, what's the experience we want to deliver to our employees, right? Like getting the pulse or the employee opinion survey, making sure every market in Latin America, we used to serve or support 12 markets, um, have an action plan and really take the feedback right from the employees, like hearing their voices, and take action, right? That's the most critical. Sometimes I think that was one of the challenges for the role. Like people just review the results, and is the easy way is just like, oh yeah, thank you for your feedback, and nothing happened, right?
Yeah.
And in my role, it was just really drive action plans and improve the culture. So it's hard because you have different markets with different realities, right? From a business perspective, from cultural perspective. And there is at Amway is when I start like understanding the diversity piece and the different cultures that you can work with. And because even within Mexico, we are different, right? Like the north and south, the center people, and then expanding to Central America, Venezuela, Colombia, Brazil, Argentina, Chile, Uruguay. Oh, that was a total like a different world.
Yeah.
But it was super excited. I in that role, I was in charge also of the DNI piece for Latin America. So I really was like super passionate about like building bridges between people, between markets, between generations, right? Because that's where we want to start talking about the baby boomers getting retired, plus the Gen Y getting into its roles in the companies, and how we can build bridges, right, between all of them. So that's another passion of mine, like the DNI piece. Um, then I back to HR business partners side again
Mhm.
in a really critical moment for the company. Like there was like growth sales, right? Sales growth. The business requires or demands a lot of people topics. Um, Execute new performance management. So there was a lot of learnings. And then I moved to a change management role for the Americas. So that was my first like non just Latin America role. We was just working also with the US, Canada, DR, and Latin America and Brazil. So, and the change management role, it was just building the capability, right? Because we are about facing like a big big reorganization, and how to engage stakeholders, how to educate them on how to implement the changes. So that's it was a different experience. But there is always, like an opportunity to learn. I was not an expert in change management, but maybe like my relationship building strength or capability, it was what helped me get into the role, right? Like build
Yeah.
connections, not only in your side or your region, but globally. Um, so yeah, that was like I think for a year and a half. Um, well, and then
And
Mexico, yeah.
and making having stakeholders, people who will be the, how you call it, the people who will advertise what you trying to implement, especially in culture and leadership, is always a difficult conversation. And I cannot imagine how many conversations you had like that, especially having to learn from all the regions that you just mentioned, all the countries. It's different. All the differences of mind or ideas.
Thinking or even way of work, right?
Yeah.
Like, or even just like, like some people told me, like, we as the Mexicans, because they just label, like, oh, if Melissa is Mexican, like everyone are like Melissa, so all the Mexicans are this way, right? Like, so,
Yes.
but they sometimes we are like more like direct and honest and transparent and more like a not rude, but kind of like a like, yeah, really strong and straightforward.
Yes.
Like, guys, no. But yeah, from a cultural perspective, like, yeah, that's south of the region of Latin America. They are more candid and more friendly. And even though, like, I'm a friendly people, like, or person, like, I love build relations. I love connecting with people, help others. Actually, my son, I remember one day, one of my kids, my daughter, it was my son, asked me like, "Hey, mom, like, what are you doing in your day to day, like in your work? Like, what is HR, like responsibilities?" I was just like, "Huh, it's interesting. How can I explain to a kid, a like 4 years old kid, what we are doing in HR?"
Yeah.
And I just say like, baby, I'm just have conversations with people all day. That's what I'm doing, like just having conversations.
Yes.
Obviously, he didn't get like the type of conversation, right? Like it was just like could be like a coaching to some leader or interviewing people or helping an employee with something. But obviously it was just like, yeah, that's how all HR, like they need to feel passionate about like people, like connect people with resources, tools, or training programs and help them. So we need to be advocate to our employees,
Yes.
definitely.
Yes.
But
That's
understanding the business side, right? For sure. Like
yeah,
always keep
exactly.
in mind.
Yeah, that's one of the core actions that we have to have always. It doesn't change. It doesn't change. That's
Yeah.
important.
Not even like whatever role you play in HR, you should be have like the service for employees, advocate for them, and manage the stakeholders, right? Like
Exactly.
it depends at the level of the organization you have been exposed to, the political things, the egos around, like all these environments. So it was really a big learning for me. Um, and I love also change. So I feel like sometimes people ask me like, "Oh, what's your passion like within HR?" And I'm like, "Oh my gosh, I love everything. Like I really enjoy in almost all people processes, like working with like everything, but recruitment, right? Like it's not my favorite, right? And I know Gerardo, you are the master of this, but yeah, I think that I got the experience, but I love more this side of
Develop.
consultant and yeah.
Yeah, management. Both have an important role. Like we were talking offline a little bit about it, and they have an important role in companies, and a big impact on performance and how that company is going to go. So, so in your current role, how do you think you're impacting that success that the company might have using development, and also obviously you work with stakeholders, you try to make them understand how development will make the company have their own results in a spectacular way. Often does, right?
Yeah. So I think when I have like this role or I moved to this role, and before this role I was leading talent management for Latin America. So I was just like more a specialist on the talent management piece, and I report into a person here in the U.S., the VP of talent management, and then she invited me, right? Like, hey, we have this opportunity, we see your potential, like I think you can make it, like you will be rock here, like learn a lot of like other culture, like and will be a great experience for you and your family, right, to move to a different country, and we can talk about like that, like the experience on, but so far so good. It's the kids are really happy. So but it was just like a big challenge, right? Like, oh my God, okay. So I have been working with Amway Latin America for 11 years. In that moment, I build relations, I build credibility, I deliver results, I inspire high performance, like all these things. And you're like, oh my gosh, like, should I move there, start from scratch, not from zero, but like you need to build your brand again in a headquarter basis, gaining the stakeholders, build relations that like some of my previous programs and the buy-in that I got from leaders, it was because of the relations and the trust and the credibility. So when I moved here to Michigan, to the headquarters, my main focus is just, okay, Melly, like you need to build relations within like your new team, right? You have a new team, you need to get to know each other, establish trust, and then going like expanding your relations or network, because here is like a huge team, right? You have, instead of just working with 30 members in Latin America within HR, now we are like, I don't know, just in the US, like almost 100 or 80 HR employees, right? So you need to build relations again with business partners, listen to them, their needs, what are their function or customer needs. And I think that's one of the critical pieces, like talk about the talent management strategy, the agenda that we have, how much value we can add, right, to that business. At some point, or sometimes it's hard, like you have a function, like they want to just run on their own, like just build their program, like an upskilling program without a partnership with HR. And for me, that's not acceptable. Like, why, like we can work and partner and maybe create like a better experience and more data driven decisions, and like getting maybe a more successful program or result. So I think when like working with sales teams and well, market or other function, like that's something like you need to really, like you need to build a relation, uh, and get the buy-in, right? Like you need to see like what are the goals, what are the purpose, what's the problem we are trying to solve with this program, right? Like that's the only question that we always ask to the customer or the functions. Okay, so before we start creating and designing and just like bringing vendors, like build a program, that's the easy part, like when you have some experience and you have clear goals. But what's the real problem like you are trying to solve? Is there is like a new strategy, like you need to engage your team? Are there like any new skills or anything like new technology or something in place that change the way you are working out? Then when we have clear the statement clear, okay, now let's build together the program or whatever whatever initiative.
The path that you're going to start building, either vendors or programs that you already implemented before
Yes,
that you
and
use.
even like start establishing, like there is not only the training, the traditional training piece is what really matters. That's only the 10%, right? Let's
Yes.
bring a mentoring program, like they can learn from other markets, they can learn from other people within another function or other level, and bring the critical piece of the on the job development, right? Like how they can activate their knowledge
Yeah.
within a
Grow.
project, a global assignment, and what's the impact? What are the KPIs or OKRs that you really want to achieve, right?
And
So
then
I
you
think,
start talking about grow within the company, right?
yeah,
Which is the way to go in companies. I mean, you have to grow your people because they will be successful if you're successful because they will be successful. So that's one of the
totally.
main goals, right, in development.
Yes, I think that's how we as an HR or even as a leader, I mean, talking from a leadership role, I think that's how success, that you can count success, right? Like in the amount of lives you have been impacting, even
Yes.
to get a promotion or get a new role or get a new job, even outside your company. You never know. Like sometimes it's just whatever is the best for the employee. Maybe it's not Amway or whatever X company.
Yeah.
Maybe they need like just a push, right? Just to do what they love, what they feel passionate about. And if they are not happy with you, you can help them. Like just,
Yeah, and I love it. Just to teach them how to open the door and
yeah.
for them just to step in and start growing, flying, right? That's a great statement that the one you just should say.
Yes, I have in my experience in the past in Latin America, it was so funny because sometimes, like the dress code is just like informal. And then sometimes you have like a day that someone is with a blazer and super professional dress code, not just business, casual business. And I just talk to them like, hey, how are you? La, la, la. Like, hey, are you having an interview? Do you need any help? Like, are you because actually that's where really we are passionate. It's about the people, not the people within the role that you need in the company, right? When you put your heart connected with the people, like the person, no, doesn't matter if, like if they are getting an interview inside or even like outside. So I think we are here to help them, whatever their path is. So yeah, that's an interesting and just not a funny, but yeah, people sometimes like they ask me for coaching, like for interview tips. And that helps me because then I realize how they are feeling, right? What are the gaps they are not they are finding within leadership or the company or the environment or something. So that's super helpful.
Yeah, you're about being a facilitator of the grow and the information. I mean, sometimes it's a simple push, like you just say it, and it helps a lot, and it will impact the company and results of the company. I say, I'm probably repeating this, but it is important. It is
Yeah.
important. It is important as bringing people to the door to start a new job because
Oh, totally. If that job is better for them, for their purpose, for their family, we can't stop them. Like we need to let them go. And see how they will be bright or spark in other place, and that's good because you provide development, you provide training.
and
Yeah,
branding,
yep,
branding because they
and
might come
brand.
back. They might come
Of
back and even
course, like
better, right?
totally. And I think we experience a lot at Amway. Like people leave it like just maybe sometimes for money, and they like even like 2 months later they just ask to buy, like to the because of the culture, because of like the environment, the even the business. This is a really, I love the business that we are in because it's helping people live better, healthier lives. And it's pretty aligned to my purpose as HR, and the values of the family. It's a private company. So I really feel passion because it's all connected to my life and everything. So
So that's great statement. So how you see development now? So how you see the development space currently in the market? I mean, back then when you started your career, I can relate to that, to probably having rooms of people full of people that you needed to train and certificate them in certain topics that maybe they just learn at that moment and that's it, right? And didn't have any impact or anything else, right? So
yeah.
how's now when in difference of what you how you started, how is that so meaningful for the people? I mean, you already kind of mentioned a little bit, but how you see the development now and how powerful it is, right? How you see it?
Well, yes, I think with the help of technology and like all the tools, artificial intelligence, anything like technology, like that helps the people really get whatever they need, right? Like their learning path, like maybe personalized paths instead of just like delivering like, okay, one size fits all, right? Like you will get into this training because we need you, and that's okay. Like sometimes the company or the organizations needs some skills and training and technical skills. But I feel from a development, like we are taking care more of the personal growth and professional, not only professional, because the well-being, like the safe environment, the diversity workforce that you have in the companies. So you need to really take care of their well-being, of their mental health. Even when we talk about well-being, it's just like not just like the health piece, but the financial, the social, like everything
All of it. Yes.
integrated. Yeah, so that's where an HR department needs to really focus in on the employee experience. Okay, how we are helping them achieve their personal goals, right? Because if they got those goals, like they will be happy because someone like a vendor, like an external vendor or the company invest on that piece, and they will be really like increase engagement, right? The sense of belonging to
Yes.
Amway or to any company will be just go like up, right? So, and that's how the productivity and the business results were impacted
Yeah. And
because of the
that's
people, right?
and Exactly, and that goes exactly to the results at the end of the company. Like we were just talking offline, how how important and powerful it is that the talent space, not just talent acquisition, talent development, because you build the brand on people who are happy, who are eager to go to the office, to meet people, to be productive, and they will talk to their people who they love, those professional circles. They'll talk about Amway or the company they represent, and that will be an engagement that will be very powerful for the future of the company. Again, results will be good, right?
Yes, and even now in these times that could be after when COVID hit, right? Like, and I feel like sometimes I just it was like almost 4 years ago, and I was just like, oh my God, that's time flies, right? It was
Yes.
really, but the way of work, the work system, the environments, the cultures, like change like reactively, like bringing hybrid model, right? Like even though like people are back into the office, but I feel like that hybrid piece is still on and activated, right, in the companies, if for the roles that can be like hybrid or remote or uh, but I think like HR, as an HR professional, you always need to keep in mind that hybrid workforce and the diversity within your hybrid workforce. When you create a program, it could be a training program or mentoring or coaching or like benefits program, whatever, you need to keep in mind all your personas. Like, okay, who are your audience, right? Like you need to create something for the in-person people that are in campus or in office on site. You need to have something for the virtual ones, the remote workers. And even though like there is something like I learned in General Electric, but sometimes we as corporate HR, sometimes we forget about the manufacturing people, the people that are really making the products that are really bringing money to the company,
The
and
heroes.
the heroes of an organization. So I think we need to keep in mind that people, when you are building like could be training or learning conferences or any program, because I think the way they first from a time commitment perspective, they can't join like a 8 hours class, right? Like or 8 hour session once a week or whatever the frequency or cadence. So even the learning mindset, how people learn now is different from when I started in, like 15 years ago, 17 years ago. The micro learning pieces, you need to get like content like ready and shorter version because people are not investing a lot, like looking like Zooms, like 2 hour Zooms, right? Like it's just like 30 minutes, 18 minutes, like TED Talk, right? Like that's kind of the messages, and we need to be really creative and innovative like in HR when you are just delivering programs, because it's hard. I'm not saying it's easy because it requires more time, and need to be agile, right? Like you can deliver more content with less resources, less time, but needs to be an agile and really feel like that value added piece to their roles, right? Or their business.
Yeah.
So
And tools, you use tools for that, right? I mean, you are a big company who probably invests in tools, right?
totally, yeah. So I love the technology pieces. And sometimes I feel like if I were like 5 years ago, like sometimes companies or even HR professionals do not think about, oh my God, we don't have budget to acquire like a, whatever ERP program or technology, or even not even like a boardroom or LMS, right? But now with the startups world, like there is tons of companies that can help you deliver, create, and even at a lower cost. Like it's not like a big investment.
Yes.
I bring like in this last year and a half that I've been in this role, like we implemented like technology for mentoring, a technology for learning, to create micro learnings too, and it was not even like that expensive. So I feel like sometimes from an HR, we just like block our minds and say like, oh no, we don't have budget for that. We need to do
Exactly.
the training. But come on, like you can just do a research and ask
Totally.
your other colleagues like as the HR Power Up community or other communities that you are part of, what they are using.
Yeah,
We are
we all,
paying for this tool, and it's AI included. You can transform PowerPoints to AI to technology like trainings, and it's like in 5 minutes.
yeah,
And it's not like
that
high.
expensive. Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Y-
not that expensive.
Yes, sometimes we just get blocked, right? And by the simple fact that we don't ask or investigate the budget that you probably will spend, and you might find that you can do a lot of things with less money than you think. Things are not as expensive as it was before, right? As 10 years back then. Great,
Yeah.
great. So at the same time, how you see that's a question that I wanted to ask you. So how you see AI in development? How is that working in the space right now? How's helping AI on?
Oh my gosh. Well, I think it depends on each individual and how they leverage, right? Some people are just afraid, just leverage, or even just have an account on ChatGPT or other AI tools. It's not just, and I think that's an interesting cool like statement, right? Like AI is not ChatGPT, right? ChatGPT is one type of AI, right? Like helps you with some statements and content research, but you have other AI tools that can help you. But I feel sometimes it's like kind of a change management work, right? Like sometimes we are just not, and it's not because we are resistors to the technology. It's just like the lack of time to invest on learning
Yeah.
when you have like X priorities here. But I feel like those who really like and love learn something, they will find the time. I have been doing like courses in my Fridays nights or even Saturday or Sunday, because I'm a continuous learner and I always try to learn. But I think AI will change. Well, it's not will, like they are changing the learning side, even just for instructional designers, right? Like if they leverage and develop the curation skill, like how you can curate content
Yeah.
that the AI tools provide to you. I think that's a new skill like people needs to develop, like how to curate or pick the best content that the technology provides to you, uh, and specify like, okay, how am I like asking, could be whatever bot or ChatGPT or other AI tool, how am I asking questions? How am I sharing stories, right, to the tool in order to get what I really need, right? So I think there
Yeah.
are some skills that we need to learn, right? And it takes time. I think the adoption of technology and more this type of disruptive technology, it's hard for some people. And I can't connect, like it's not generational. I think like there are people like boomers that are pretty high tech profiles and they love and they are surprised and amazed for the amount of technology. And I have like millennials on my side, like they are just freak about, like they don't want even not open an account.
Yeah.
We bring this tool to build like micro learnings, and I always push in my team, like, hey, remember about this, right? Remember about this tool, remember. And I'm not a Gen Z, right? I'm a Gen Y, and I love leverage technology that help you like reduce the time investment on something,
Yeah.
right? Like it's just been more productive. Uh, but you need to be careful too, right? On the quality of the content
The
and
content. Yeah.
curate it in a right way. But that will be, I feel like AI will help if for the companies that leverage will be super helpful, and even all these platforms like the on-demand learning platforms, they are adding AI. So individuals have a learning coach on the side that help them, right, define or find a course, evaluate their knowledge like in a chat. And I feel like that's, and even in the education piece, not just the organizational training, but in the education piece, having personalized coaches that uses AI will be a big change for our kids, right, in the future. So I really feel passionate on how the impact of AI, not only in the organizations, but overall.
And I say this, I kind of discovered AI for probably 6 or 7 months ago, and I'm been very impressed with the results, and obviously, maybe it's a culture of my gen. It's difficult. It's difficult to you to understand that that's the future, that you have to know how to manage, hold it, and take all the advantages that it has. So with that, how you see the future in development, how you see the future with all these new tools that will improve time, will improve the obviously the learning path that we used to have. Now you'll have probably, I don't want to say easiest, but a better path probably for generations to come. Like you said, probably those tools will be useful for our kids. So at the same time, we need kind of arrange those conversations in the professional. So when our kids start a career, they make it easier for them as well, right?
Yes, and they feel they belong to because they have the tools they need, right? That they work outside the job, so it will be just like interesting. So from a development perspective, I really, and this is not rocket science, but obviously behind any AI program, priority strategy, there is always the human piece, right? Like there is always the human side of the business that drives the results, that really execute with quality, deliver results. I feel one of the, like the priorities for any talent manager or talent development manager should be and still needs to be leadership development. Because you can have the best AI tools, technology, well-being programs, training and development, and then if you have a leader that is not really role model the learning piece, the well-being piece, the employee experience, and giving you the flexibility, providing you feedback, like actionable feedback for you to improve. So I feel everything ends again like on the leadership development. And it's like, oh, come on, Melly. Like we have been working with that like on leadership development for years. And yes, that's right. But you always have new leaders, right? Like you always have different ways of work, all these flexible environments. There are leaders that feel overwhelmed and burnout because they don't like it. They want to see their people in front of them or on the side to feel they are productive. And I think that's a way like you can still develop them, putting like trying to influence their mindset, their heart sometimes, and other things, because I think that they are the ones who really empower the people, incentivize bringing AI, like technology, being productive, recognize them, build culture. So I feel one of the trends or the priorities should be like still leadership development. Like the change or how rapidly changing environments we have. Even at Amway, we have strategies like long term, like in long term, it is 3 years, right? Like 4 or 5 years, not 10 years long, right? Like that's because the environment, your customers, your consumers change every day.
Exactly.
So you need to adapt and change with agility, right? And equip your team, upskilling them, build new strategies, engage the employees with the strategy. So I think that's a lot. But leadership development is one, and also the digital HR or employee experience, right? Like what are the tools you will bring to the company to improve the experience of the people?
And that's a topic that it's always there, right? As well, improving the experience and how you onboard people, and again, the first 3 4 months of the staying of the company for new employees is very important, right?
As the retention with the market that we have, at least in the US too, not just US, but I'm talking like speaking from my scope, but people do not want to work, right? Because they have a government support, they have, so how will you retain those people? Like, how will you really build a success pipeline, even like succession planning, like for leadership roles? And so there is a lot of topics. And even having or bringing technology to improve your people processes, like performance management, right? If you're still doing performance management once a year, that's like obsolete, right? Like you should be doing in a different way, more agile, more feedback, continuous feedback every quarter, like, so that's, and even the feedback is not just the upline or the leader to their team, like it's like both
Both
sides,
ways. Yeah, both
both
ways.
ways, and even at 360, like they can provide feedback to peers. So if you don't have tools for them to feel comfortable, like providing feedback or asking feedback, it's hard, right, for people to just being
Yeah.
honest and transparent.
And
So
like you said, companies are adjusted. Most of the companies are adjusted to have that performance
yeah,
review once a year. But right now, I think is like you said, obsolete. You need to be measuring that every day or every month, if possible. Like you just mentioned a while ago, relationships are very important in the company. Conversations are very important in the company, and that will lead to results. So you need to be not just away from the people who you collaborate. I mean, you need to be close to them, not doing micromanagement, but at least learn what they're doing and what their expectations of the company and what they're experiencing. And that's a path. That's the
yes.
now, right? The now.
And I think that in the leadership development piece, there is like, you need to be aware of the challenges your team has, like facing every day, like for getting progress on their task or goals or projects. And I think a lack of or a skill gap that we found in some leaders, not in Amway, but in the market, there is like the lack of self-awareness, right? Like how do you really identify your opportunities and how do you take action, right, on your own development? If you're not developing yourself, you can just tell your people to develop themselves and not doing anything for you, right? So I think model and role model is the best way for leaders to impact and inspire others. Could be from a well-being piece, from development, for career growth, even. So yeah, it's hard. It's not easy. It's not easy. I'm not saying it's just read a book and apply everything. It's just practice, right? Practice
Yes.
and practice.
Yes. Yeah. And now, again, mentioning that the tools is in the palm of your hand right now, right? You just had it all day, and you can implement tools for that and reduce the time invest on learning sometimes.
Yes.
It's
Yes,
very
totally.
interesting. Very interesting.
Yeah.
So currently, what you're reading? Anything that you wanna recommend the community
Yes.
to read or to see? Any podcasts that you follow that will help the people who will see this podcast and has those topics of development? Something that you want to recommend us?
Of course. So I will start with the podcast because and you will be fun because now I love reading books and I always read about personal development and leadership and, like the Adam Grant, the Dave Ulrich, the everything, like all around mindset and growth mindset. So all around those type of books. But now and it's part of my awareness that I have like an opportunity on educate myself on finance and educate, like this type of book. So this not HR related in some, but it's well-being, right? I want to be better at my finance, man, like personal finances. So I have like, and I'm just seeing here because I have my 4 books that I just read, like the first 2. One of them is financial feminist, but it's not HR related, and the other is like total makeover, total money makeover. But it's just in the personal side, so nothing related to HR. The podcast I will recommend, the future of HR. That's from Elliot, and he always invite people that are like CHROs and people like are at officer roles to talk about trends or specific topics. I really love, and he's super close to their audience and their community. Like he always comment their post, or so I have as a contact in LinkedIn. So I feel like that's one of the podcasts that really helped me a lot. It's called Future of HR. It's an English podcast, right? But there is like different. I'm listening right now. Also, another HR executive in Latino community. Now that I moved to the US, so I like listening a lot of like powerful Latinos that rock the US, and so it's like mix of different things. In the past, if you ask me, like what are your favorite book, everything is HR related, personal development. But now that I live in another like environment, I'm getting like interested and develop different topics. So
It's important as a human being as well, right? To
yeah,
learn about topics that are not just our career, right?
yes, totally.
Yeah, and I forgot to say this, but I'm just going to mention as well. So, a message that you want to give to this community, and I know that somebody told me that I said this, and I'm just gonna do the check mark.
The
Uh,
segment.
you are also co-founder of HR Power Up. So you started this community, and we're glad to circle back with you and have the chance to talk to you. A message, something that you want to tell the community of HR, going back to the what's coming in the future, or what they have to put attention right now. What's your message
Yeah.
right now for them?
So yeah, thank you. I'm glad you're just brought this HR Power Up. Yes, I work with Joa many when COVID hits, and we created this community. And I'm glad to hear like there is like more than 8,000 people around, and I feel like it's related or connected to my message to any HR professional. Uh, Build relations even within your role, your expanded role or audience, different stakeholders. And I think the stakeholder mapping when you are taking a new role or even in your company, it's pretty critical, right? Like what type of relations you need to build. And I love like communities. I love how you can leverage and learn from others. And I feel like that's a straight connection with HR Power Up, because we can learn, and we have like in our cell phone, like contact someone from the community and learn from their expertise, learn from what tools they are using, what tools they are leveraging, the budgets that they are investing. Or so I feel for all HR, like build your network. It's pretty critical because that will get your life easier when you are trying to develop a strategy, create a program, contract a vendor, or anything. It's type of it's not like an artificial but human intelligence, right? Like how you can leverage others to learn from and really get your life easier as a professional. And the other thing that I really, and I mentioned during the podcast, but do not stop learning. You need to be up to speed, right? Because the world is changing like rapidly, and we as an HR enablers or or people professional or passionate, we need to be up to speed to the best practices, the benchmark, what's happening, what are the trends, what are even reading articles, like start making connections on LinkedIn if you have, and hopefully like hope everyone has a LinkedIn profile within HR. But you can follow people like really are up to speed and just read their post. I think I have like, I do not remember, like maybe since 3 years ago, I open my LinkedIn app every day, at least 5 minutes, just to take a look on because there is some articles that can help you and you can learn. So I feel again, is leverage technology, leverage others' knowledge, right? Within like LinkedIn posts or articles or communities.
Yes, yes.
So yeah, just get
Information information is powerful. It's powerful.
yes.
You have to be informed and up to speed with everything that's happening in the world right now.
Yes, and you can feel sometimes overwhelmed by the amount of information, but then you need to develop the curation piece, right? Like, okay, what am I taking like real to take some action, and what is just like for fun, right? Like, what can I just read just for fun,
Yes.
or so yeah, that's a good
And we were talking about it offline of this podcast.
yeah.
So a little bit of learning experience that I'm having. But even you have to have some relaxed time and have fun on what you do, right? And it's development. It is development for you.
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
Right. So I want to thank you. I want to thank you for this time. I want to thank you for this the knowledge that you help us. Hopefully, people grab something about this and they learn something about from you. As like I said, thank you for being co-founder of this community that is so big right now, and that we are in the next path of HR Powered Up this next year with a lot of new things that are coming. I want to thank you for being with us and sharing. Hopefully, this is not the last time that we talk and that you are here in this podcast.
No, thank you, Gerardo. Thank you for having me, and for all of the folks that just join HR Power Up, join the lives, take action, right? Like take action, learn something every day. And I think HR Power Up has a lot of resources there and more than that are coming. So just be in the loop and enjoy.
Yeah. Find us, we're
Right.
on LinkedIn. We have also a section in Facebook for HR Power Up. Again, thank you, Melissa, for being with us today.
No, thank you. Thank you, everyone. And well, hopefully you just like the community, join the community in LinkedIn, and also like the podcast. Thank you.
Subscribe. Probably it sounds like an advertising, but subscribe today.
Take action. Just do
Bye.
like the concept.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.